Welcome to the Going North podcast, where we will deliver you tips and techniques to advance yourself in anything you decide to do. I'm your host, author, speaker, and book enthusiast, Dom Brightman, and every Thursday I will interview authors, especially self-published ones, from various walks of life, who will deliver you some inspiration and information to advance yourself. Be sure to check out my book called Going North on Amazon.com, available in both ebook and paperback. Audiobook coming soon to more ears near you. And let's get on with the show. Alrighty, our next guest on the Going North podcast, we have the wonderful Pearl Matibe, who is an award-winning speaker, blogger, brand cultivator. A little bit about Pearl. She has a lot of talent, but her true talent lies in persuasive communications. Pearl's true talent lies in persuasive communication. She is a professional speaker and expert for teams who want to unlock their potential, know their value, and be their best. Pearl just does talk. She shares meaningful insights, leaving you with worthwhile takeaways. Her delivery instills clarity and builds confidence. Not only does she invoke a desire in people to reframe their approach, but she certainly moves an audience to action. She's here to spark some measure of influence, propel your mind, and spur you to act based on her unique viewpoint on content and content marketing for professional speakers. And the backstory, you may ask. It is Gratia et Scientia, grace and knowledge, was her high school motto. Today she grasps more fully the significance of this Latin phrase and has come to realize focus precedes success. She has given guidance to heads of corporations, executives, worked with some chosen politicians, advised authors and speakers. Ultimately, she drives an audience to a new place, a new position, and a new outlook. She is a solid defender of her personal motto, live your ideals. She could be described as a content enthusiast, a brand cultivator, and a heavy investor in public speaking. Pearl sees things differently. Let's welcome up Pearl. How you doing?
I'm very well, thank you so much. How are you doing, Dominique?
Oh, I'm doing great. So in that expansive bio, that is huge.
Well, thank you very much, Dominique. It's a pleasure for me to be here with you, and I'm very humbled that you asked me to be on this interview with you today.
Woohoo! Yeah, so just tell us a little bit about Pearl's journey, because we just heard all this stuff it is huge.
Okay, so a little bit about me. Let's see. What can I tell your audience? Where is your audience? You are in Maryland primarily, right? So is your audience throughout the rest of the US or over the continent?
The whole world, baby.
The whole world. Okay, so
no one's safe.
To all your listeners around the world, first thing is that it's, like I said, it's a real pleasure for me to be here with you today. I'm a professional speaker, and I've been speaking for a long time. That's in a nutshell. I'm a professional speaker. I like to learn, and I've been studying professional speaking, trying to learn how to communicate and deliver my message. Not only to deliver my message, but to deliver my message effectively the first time that I deliver it. Because, it dawned on me that by the time I've actually opened my mouth and spoken certain words, I'm hoping it is the most purposeful, perfect delivery of those words.
Sounds fabulous. So in your studies of public speaking, what trials did you have to overcome to become the brand strategist that you are?
The brand strategist, okay. So the first thing I'm going to share is I used to be very comfortable giving a speech on a PowerPoint using my laptop. But I was very uncomfortable when I did not have the laptop in front of me.
Awesome.
So the one thing that I did need to overcome was the comfort level that I felt having the laptop in front of me. And when I was speaking with the laptop, it meant that I was positioned in a single space on the stage. But when I don't have the laptop and I'm not focusing on the PowerPoint, then I'm free to move around.
There you go.
I find that when I'm speaking more freely without the incumbency of a podium or a lectern and have the freedom of the stage, as I'm speaking, then I start to bounce off the audience better. I feed off of the audience better than when I have that impediment in front of me. So I think I certainly had to unlearn being comfortable away from a lectern, away from a podium. Yeah.
Yeah, and you mentioned something about unlearning. It's very important.
It was, I don't know that it was a habit, but in my mind, I've always seen speakers speaking from a podium. In church, they speak from a podium, but never using the whole platform that the podium is on. But if you're watching a theater or a drama or something on stage, even a concert, let's just say you're going to a pop concert, they're using the entire stage.
Right.
It's not like a comedian who's standing in one spot behind a mic on stage. And if you're watching a Shakespeare play, it's not happening in one position of the stage. They're using the entire stage. And I think as speakers, we've got to move away from the idea that we are stuck behind a podium. We need to use the stage, this the way actors use a stage.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think so, because that is your entire space to speak from. So, and I think it's more natural that when we are speaking in real life, we are moving around. I don't think that if you're on the phone, you might be sitting at a chair or at a desk speaking to a customer.
Right.
But if I'm in a grocery store, or I'm going to a customer service desk, or I'm going to be speaking to somebody outside in the real world, movement is probably involved while I am speaking. Whether it's walking towards somebody, moving with that person. And so I think that it's a false premise that we go by the fact that when a person is speaking to an audience, that they must speak from a podium. Because I think that that is unnatural for us to be stuck in one place to speak from there. Even when you're having a conversation with somebody, you might lean in.
Right.
To make a point, or you might step back. You know, if you're with friends and you're in a group, the movement of the space that you're in with those people is going to be different. But I think that when you're in an audience and you have 100 people, or 50, or 500 people, it's difficult to lean in that audience. So the best way that you can keep them engaged and connecting with you, I think, is certainly by the energy that you create from moving. Yeah.
And energy you create from moving, like, is there any tips you give to anyone just for just transferring that energy?
Here's what I would share, in that the one biggest thing is when you think about a stage, you can think of it as 9 parts of a stage. So if you were to take a page and you split it up into 9 blocks and call it center stage, left of stage, right of stage, just like in acting, if you were presenting a Shakespeare play. And we're taught this in English literature in class when you're going through school, right? We've read plays, Romeo and Juliet, any kind of play. I'm just using those as an example. But when they're acted out, I mean, many of us have taken part in a school play, but you're using the whole stage, right? And so when you have that audience and your parents were in the audience, they're facing you from a different way. So their left is your right. So I would suggest that when somebody is speaking on stage, they have to speak to the audiences left and right. So if you're talking about, if somebody asks you a question and you speak, or your topic is about time or distance or travel, so let's just say you are talking about something that happened in 2016, and then you're going to talk about something that happened in 2017, you would start talking about 2016 at the left of the stage. Then when you begin talking about 2017, you move to your right, which is the audience's left, and you're now talking about 2017. So you demonstrate time by movement on the stage. That way your audience remembers where in time your speech is taking place, because it's a visual calendar. It's a visual calendar. Yeah, right?
Wow, that's actually interesting because that's something they really don't really like mention in public speaking courses, is the fact that you have to keep the stage presence in mind and the whole visual piece in mind.
Yeah, I think it's very important to keep the stage presence in mind, because you don't want to lose the audience.
Right.
And if you wish for them to follow what you are talking about, say for instance you're talking about your childhood, and then you move on to when you grow older, and then to your aging. So how do you demonstrate visually time? You're going to have to do that by some kind of movement or hand gestures or some kind of body language. And every time you move on the stage, that is body language, right?
Right.
And it doesn't have to be a story about your life. It could be a meeting in an office, or it could be, let's just say you're in an environment where you're speaking but there is no stage. So let's say you are at an office meeting or with employees, co-workers at work, and you have to present a speech, and you're seated at a table. So now it's not your full body that's moving. You have to use gestures and body language to demonstrate the words that you speak to them. So if you're talking about, say you're presenting a presentation that has to do with numbers, and you have to do 1, 2, and 3, then you have to use, every time you mention 2, you have to use the digits 2 of your fingers to demonstrate. You have not only got to say the number, but you've got to demonstrate it with gestures.
That's very
Because human beings retain that more memorably than if they just hear it. If they hear it and they see the demonstration of the number, then they're going to remember it more when you're talking about. So when you're saying 3, you're going to say 3.
So when, like applying the science of public speaking, when you actually take it down and drill it down to a science, how much progression, how have you noticed the improvements of your presentations?
I think that I still have a very long way to go, but I can look at how I used to prepare a speech in the past.
Right.
And I look at the same speech today, and I'm going to laugh at myself. I really am going to laugh at myself, because at the time, so I'm talking about 6 years ago.
Okay.
So 6 years ago, so that makes about 2010, 2011. The way I would write a speech then, I was very content. In fact, I was very happy with myself. Give myself a big pat on the back. Hey, Pearl, that's an awesome speech, you know? I'd get really excited that I did a good job at the time. But with what I know now, especially having gone through with Toastmasters, I know that was not a good speech now. I didn't know it then. So now the difference is, now that I've been learning the science and the art of speaking, because I think it's definitely both a science and it is an art, because you're also performing.
That's true. That's true.
But you're also using the science, because you're speaking. People's what's in our brains react to certain sensors. So it's both an art and a science. But with what I know now, when I'm starting to put words to a page, I'm constructing the words, key phrases, key words, structure of the sentence plus the body language on how I will move when I say those words for an intended purpose. The audience might not know my intended purpose. Some people might call it manipulation. But the intention is not to manipulate. The intention is I have an intention for that message.
There you go.
So the message has a purpose. I'm hoping that once I have done that gesture with those words at that position of the stage, because certain words and gestures, if you do them backstage, will not have the same effect as when you're center stage or left of stage. So you've got your stage positioning is impacted more by those words. So all of that is a production. It's a production.
It is.
It's a production. It's not only writing a speech. People think, okay, I'm going to be a speaker. Let me write a speech. Okay. I went down the lane and I walked with my dog. And then they think, they can produce. Some people will say, I'm going to go do a keynote. But a keynote, that's 40 or 45 minutes. A completely different structure to a speech when you're speaking 5 to 7 minutes or 1 to 2 minutes. So there's different kinds of speeches. There's different purposes to those speeches. You can speak to inform. You can speak to persuade.
Yep.
You can communicate on video. You can give straight talk. It might be a press conference. You might be speaking to your customers via YouTube channel. There's different ways and different purposes for those kinds of speeches. And there's different ways to deliver them, different ways to prepare for those. So there's so many ways you can speak. There's interpretive speaking. A lot of people always think, okay, I'm a speaker. I'm a motivational speaker. Okay, what is that? I'm an inspirational speaker. Oh, okay, you're an inspirational speaker. So there's 100, hypothetically, 100 inspirational speakers.
Tons.
How are you different to the other 100 inspirational speakers? And if you're an inspirational speaker, what is that? Define it. I don't know. I don't think I'm an inspirational speaker at all. When you say speaker, people want to, I think definitely people imagine somebody on a stage with a mic speaking to an audience. And in the most simplistic ways of defining it, that is a public speaker because you're speaking in front of the public. But people speak for different methods.
Different methods and for
you might be
goals.
Delivering to your board of directors in a meeting. It could be another way. You're selling a product to a customer. You could be on the phone and that person cannot even see you.
It's true.
That is a speech.
It is, because you're talking.
You're speaking. So you're selling. You could be selling on the phone, you could be selling in person. It might be a webinar on the internet. They may not see you, but you're delivering, right? So speaking it's a very, very varied sector that can be approached in so many different ways. You just have to, I think, identify what kind of speaker are you.
What ways would you try to, for those who may be aspiring to be speakers, what advice would you give them for defining themselves as a speaker?
I think that depending on what the purpose of why you're speaking is, are you doing it for a business? Is it part of work? Are you speaking or trying to improve your speaking because you might be going for a job interview? Is it for career development? So are you speaking off the cuff, or are you trying to improve prepared speaking? So you've got to split. I think the split begins there. Is it going to be impromptu? Once you decide, is it impromptu or prepared, or whether you want to do both, then you can decide, is this for business? Am I trying to make money out of the speaking? In other words, is there a customer involved, or am I just doing something because I feel like inspiring the world? Or is it something because I want to leave a legacy for my children?
There you go.
So I think after that, you've got to understand what is the goal of why you speak. Because I think you don't just want to speak for the sake of speaking. Maybe don't speak. Maybe say nothing, you know.
When you think about it, especially with all the technology nowadays, it's like maybe they shouldn't say nothing on, especially on social media.
Yeah, you've got to know when not to speak, right? Because when you are not speaking, you are in fact speaking. So when you've got a conversation going on, it's a time to be quiet. You're sending a message.
It's true.
You're speaking, man. Because silence is speak. It's a punctuation.
I guess it gives them a moment to drink in what they've heard as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, I enjoy speaking. I really do. I enjoy speaking. I enjoy speaking because it's a way to not only to interact, it's a way to pass a message, to deliver your... I think speech is just a tool to deliver your thoughts. If somebody could read my mind, there would be no need to speak. Right? If you could read my mind, we would not be speaking. But we're not mind readers. But you can learn body language.
Very true.
You can learn body language, and so you may not necessarily even need the person to speak. If you learn it and you understand it well enough and you know how to read cues, then that may be helpful anyway. But ultimately, I think that, for me anyway, it's about how effectively my thoughts are delivered to whoever is going to be listening.
That is good indeed. That is good indeed. So any resources you recommend to folks out there looking to study body language or to delve or dive even deeper into the science of public speaking?
Any resources? I would imagine that one way to start would be, even when you don't have any training or knowledge, most people, we can confidently say most people, that's not everybody, but most people have a cell phone.
Right.
If you have a cell phone that can record voice and can record a video, because everybody can take a picture, speak into your phone on your own, in your car, driving, wherever. Record yourself. Once you've recorded yourself, hit replay.
The moment of truth.
Moment of truth. Watch yourself. If you are happy with how you look to yourself, then, continue what you're doing. But the other thing you can do, or how you sound, because have you ever recorded your own voicemail?
Oh yeah.
So you've recorded your own voicemail. I've even written down my voicemail message first and practiced before I recorded it on the voicemail. Now, some people do that. I did that. Okay. So when I was happy with this voicemail message, I'd written it down, Dominique, and I was happy. I practiced it. I'm ready. Right.
Right.
This is at the office. Now I'm going to record my voicemail message, even on my cell phone. I recorded the voicemail message, but guess what? When you play back your voicemail message, the sound of your voice is not the same sound that you hear yourself when you speak. Because of the bone structure in our minds. So haven't you actually heard yourself and you said, is that me?
Definitely.
I sound like that? That is the reason. So when you record yourself, that's how you sound to other people. So I think it's very useful to grasp how you sound to other people. And then take that recording and have somebody else review it, because effective evaluation is important. So you can evaluate yourself, and obviously that is good for you to replay it for your own self-esteem. But you also need someone who's not your cheerleader. Someone who's going to give you positive, safe effective evaluation and feedback of that recording, and then use that as the base of how you need to improve. So if we're talking about resources, I wouldn't just start going out blank and start buying books, reading, signing up for classes and things like that. Understand where you are at. Get a recording of yourself first. Have somebody else look at it. You look at it. Because even if somebody else looks at it, at the end of the day, you have to be happy with yourself on how you are perceived.
Definitely.
How you came across, how you sounded, how you looked. And if that image and that sound is not how you want to be, then you need to change your brand. Because that is your true brand.
That's true.
That is your true brand. Then we can talk to Pearl, the brand strategist, and we can talk, okay, this is where you're at. This is where you want to go. Then there are things we got to do, you know. And it's I don't think you should expect to get results the next day.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, got to be realistic.
It takes some time and it takes some practice. Just like Kobe Bryant plays basketball. And he is a fantastic basketball player. Just like, who else do you know that's not a basketball? Michael Phelps was a swimmer. But he's a great swimmer. But what do those two people do?
Practiced.
They practice during the week when they're not at a game, when they're not in the pool, when he is practicing. Not only, okay, let's take this example. Kobe Bryant is basketball, Michael Phelps is swimming. Not only are they practicing the sport of basketball and the skill of swimming, they're also exercising the body that performs that sport. And as speakers, it's not just about practicing your speech in the week. That's why at Toastmasters and so on, you go to meetings, because you're practicing, right?
Right.
But it's not simply about practicing a play or practicing a stroke. You also have to exercise the body. So they go to the gym, they lift weights, they will run. That's not basketball. That's the keeping the body in shape. When you're speaking, you need to practice your voice, practice, your hand gestures, so that when you put out an arm or a hand, you will gesture the way that you have now trained. That's why when I say unlearn, you have to. It's like you have to do the gym of public speaking. You have to do the gym of public speaking. It is like a sport. It is like anything else. And when you don't practice it, you're not going to get better at it, and you won't maintain it either. You can say, "Oh, I'm the best speaker," but guess what? Even the best basketball player still practices, still gets up in the morning, maybe runs. They're not running. That's not basketball, but they are exercising the body to maintain it.
It's the only place you have to live.
Yeah. So as a speaker, you've got to do vocal exercises. You can't get up there and say, oh, I need to have vocal variety. So, did you practice yesterday, vocal variety? A piano player, right?
Right.
I won't talk about my attempts at piano playing, but a piano player will practice, even if you're young and you're still learning how to play the piano, you practice chords, right?
Right.
And scales of how to play the piano. Your voice has scales. So you have to understand your range of your pitch, how high you can speak and how low you can speak. A singer, J-Lo, Beyonce, any speaker out there, they have a range of voice. So when they're Mary J. Blige, whoever you want to call out there, right?
Right.
When they're singing, they can go up to a certain high note and up to a certain low note. The next person can't do that. You have to understand your own vocal range. How high, how low, how loud, how soft. The quality of your voice. Who's your best singer?
One of my favorite singers. I'm more of like a hip-hop guy, more like a Lupe Fiasco sort of guy.
Yeah, but they have to understand their voice.
Right.
Right? Okay, let's think of any other iconic singer. It could be Bob Marley, anybody. For anyone to perform as a singer, they have to, let's not even take a celebrity. let's look at a choir or a singing band or an a cappella band. Each person in there might be an alto, might be a soprano, might be
Tenor.
a tenor.
Yeah.
So they have a range with their voice that is for them. Another speaker may not have the same vocal variety as the next speaker. But if you don't understand what your pitch, what your range for your voice is, those are the punctuation marks, the exclamation marks, the periods and full stop of your speech. So how do you know what to make bold or highlight or underline when you're speaking?
I guess practice.
You need to practice, you see. Not only practice. What I'm trying to emphasize is it's not, yes, you've got to practice like Kobe Bryant and Michael Phelps. You have to exercise at the beginning of your practice. So you've got to do your vocal variety, you know, those things, and then practice your speech. So you have to maintain your vocal cords.
Yeah.
That's what you're using to speak.
That is true. Very
I
true.
cannot go and drink a soda and then hop on stage. Right? Did you
Right.
drink water?
Definitely.
What is the condition of your throat? So what is the condition of those human parts in the throat, your diaphragm? How is your breathing? Do you do breathing exercises?
From
I mean,
down.
have you ever heard of a speaker who sometimes runs out of breath? Or when they're speaking, they have a sentence and they breathe in the wrong places in the sentence.
I've actually heard one of those before.
That's because they don't exercise. So when you've crafted a paragraph and you have 2 or 3 sentences in that paragraph, you need to know when to pause, when to breathe, when to go faster, when to go slower, when to pause. And that's all practice. It's not going to come. A lot of people will say, hey, you know, he's a natural speaker. That can be true. There are people with a lot of natural talents. But if you want to be an expert in what you do, then study the craft. Study the craft. People say, oh, Pearl, you know, I'm obsessive about speaking. Yeah, I will confess that I am obsessive about speaking. I am. But I do spend time studying the craft.
Sage advice indeed. Always study your craft.
So you're talking about resources. You need to practice, and you will need to exercise. I think you have to be able to tell yourself that you're willing to put in the time to do it. Because it won't happen in 5 or 10 minutes, or in 2 days either.
No.
And then there are resources out there. I have done some coaching, Toastmasters. You can sign up and join a Toastmasters club, or you can look for a private coach. You know, there are other people that offer master classes and things of that nature. I have on my Facebook page, my Facebook business page actually, I have a couple of different resources that I offer people, which I can talk to you about those right now actually.
Perfect.
And so what I have done is, if anybody goes to my Facebook page, if you're preparing to go to an interview, but you just want to sound more polished in a very short period of time, I can help coach that. Some people are running for office, and so they want to come across to the people who will vote for them a certain way. In other words, they need to be persuasive. That's different to hiring for a job being persuasive. So they want to convince people or change people's minds. Whereas if you're going for an interview, that's also a certain different type. So I do a couple of different things that I do coaching. If you're running for office, so if you need clout, if you're looking to have clout on that day, then I offer that service. I will help you prepare the speech, craft the speech, so that you can deliver it if you're running for office. If you're trying to do a speech for the office for corporate, and you want a well-written, polished corporate speech, you're going to deliver it at an annual report or something like that, then you can make an appointment with me. If you want to be a thought leader or you're delivering at a conference, then I'll help you to actually write the speech. If you're looking to try to do a keynote speech, I will help do that. So on my Facebook page, I have a calendar. You can just go to my calendar and book a time.
Beautiful.
And so you can see when I'm open, when I'm not open. If you're looking for a last minute speech, so let's say you're in a hurry, I actually put on here, if you're in a hurry but you need me, maybe you've already written it. Maybe you've already written your speech, but you're in a hurry.
Right.
You just want somebody else's second opinion. You can go to my Facebook page and I will select a date and a time, and then I will spend that time just to look at it, and I'll give you feedback about that thing if you're in a hurry. If you are trying to raise money, it's different to speaking to your co-workers. So if you're fundraising or something like that, again, you're trying to convince or persuade people to pull money out of their pocket to give it to your cause. I have that on there, and then they would just literally take that and just go in there and book time. So it's a resource. I mean, I'm not the only person who does it. Other people do, and I don't know if that's going to go where it's supposed to go, but I was hoping it'll go. Let's just see. Maybe I went too many. Oh, hold on. Like that, and it'll pull up my calendar on there. Should pull up, right? And you'll be able to see the times that I'm open, and it'll tell you what you want to do. If you want to book, say you want to book now, you just go and click on my website, and you can pick the time that you want to pick. But anyway, so I have it all set up on there if somebody wants to book time. But there's many different ways. There's people out there that teach speaking. You can go online. There's a lot of resources. Yeah.
So last question. So if you were 25 in today's 2017, a millennial, what advice would you give to yourself?
For speaking?
Yes.
I would say, okay, so I'm a millennial. I'm 25 years old. I would need to quickly grasp that what corporate culture exists. If I'm trying to make my way in the corporate world,
right,
then you would need to understand the culture of that corporate environment that you are going to be moving around in, but you better speak the language. So I would try to brush up on those skills, and like I said, a good place to start is to join something like Toastmasters. That is probably the least expensive way of doing it, other than trying to find somebody, because not everybody has money to hire a private coach.
Definitely.
So those are certainly things, but I think regardless of where you are in life, even if you are a millennial, because they normally are using mobile and Facebook, and everything that they're doing is shorter. If you're from my olden day times, we tend to write longer text. Instead of writing 2 sentences, we're going to write a paragraph. Millennials tend to shorten things, right? When I went to school, a sentence was separated by 2 spaces. In 2017, 2 sentences are separated by 1 space.
Just one.
because now we're limited by the constraints of characters, right? So, I mean, there's certainly speaking is a soft skill, but it's a necessary skill. If you're going to lead, I've not yet met an effective leader who couldn't speak effectively. You have leaders, but just because somebody is a leader doesn't mean that they lead.
True.
Well.
Oh, there's a huge difference.
Yeah, so for the millennials, I think that they would need to gain soft skills for communication, certainly. Yeah.
Awesome. So go on ahead and follow Pearl on social media. So what are your social media handles and website and all that good stuff?
If anybody is looking for me, they can go to my website, which is www.pearlmatibe.com. So that's PEARLMATIBE.com. I'm also on Facebook. Anybody can send me a message, or just Google me.
Alrighty, well, thank you, Pearl.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, Dominique. I really appreciate you taking me on this interview.
Alrighty, well, there you have it, folks. Thanks a bunch for your listening ears. I hope you enjoyed that wonderful episode. Be sure to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and if you want, you can add me on LinkedIn, all at Dom Brightman. That'll be DOMBRIGHTMON. Don't forget to check out my book, Going North, on Amazon.com. You go out and make the rest